Hi, this tutorial is created by pm-prep35.com. This is the third part for chapter 1 introduction in PMBOK. In this tutorial, I'm going to just walk through some of the important points in chapter 1. This will help us attempt the chapter test of pm-prep35.com. So do visit our website to attend this chapter test. So let me start with the first point. These are these are sort of recap of you can call them as recap of chapter 1. So the first point, a guide to the project management body of knowledge, 5th edition, provides guidelines for managing individual projects and defines project management related concepts. So the PMBOK provides management guidelines for different projects, and there is nothing hidden in this, but just wanted to highlight this part. According to PMBOK, the PMBOK guide identifies that subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. It identifies a subset of project management body of knowledge, although there might be a vast area of knowledge available for management and project management as such. It just identifies a subset of the project management of body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. It is generally recognized as good practice. It's not the best, but then it is recognized as good practice, and it's left to the discretion of the project manager to apply effectively to different projects. The PMBOK guide identifies a subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. The good practice in the statement means the general application of the skills, tools and techniques can enhance the chances of success over a wide range of projects. So it's a wide range of projects. They don't state on all projects, again, because it needs some sort of discretion or intervention by the project manager, understanding by the project manager and applying to the situation. So that's where the project manager's role is really important. These are just guidelines for a project manager to use whenever required. So the good practice in the statement means the general application of the skills, tools and techniques can enhance the chances of success over a wide range of projects. Next one, the PMBOK guide identifies a subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. That is a statement. The generally recognized in the statement means the knowledge and practices described are applicable to most projects most of the time, and there is consensus about their value and usefulness. It is most projects most of the times. It's not a here we are not talking about an extreme statement where we say if you apply it on all projects all of the time, you'll get success out of those projects. It's most projects most of the times, and there is consensus about their value and usefulness. So a set of people have decided that when this body of knowledge is applied on most projects most of the times, the project should be successful, and they have agreed upon this. The PMBOK guide identifies a subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. According to the PMBOK, good practice, the statement does not mean the knowledge described in PMBOK should always be applied uniformly to all projects. Again, you have knowledge, you have set of knowledge areas, you have processes, and these are grouped into different process groups. So you don't need to use all these processes. It doesn't mean that 1, 2, 3, 4 I apply all these processes and I can expect success. So in other words, if your project doesn't have procurement and you just want to use procurement somehow or somewhere, then that's not good management technique. So here the good practice. So these are all when I have procurement need in my project, I would use procurement processes. Now again, sorry to jump here. Procurement is again a knowledge area within PMBOK, but generally even the term procurement is understandable to anybody who has done project management. So good practice in the statement does not mean the knowledge described in PMBOK should always be applied uniformly to all projects. So you cannot apply it just like that uniformly across all projects and expect some sort of result or miracle. The PMBOK guide identifies that subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice. The PMBOK guide provides and promotes a common vocabulary within the project management community. The PMBOK guide provides a standard that is foundational project management reference for PMI's professional development programs and certifications. So these are certain things where the PMBOK guide is useful. It identifies that subset of project management body of knowledge generally recognized as good practice, number one. Then it provides a common vocabulary among all the project managers across the world. Okay. The third one, it provides standard that is foundational project management reference for PMI's professional development programs and certifications. So from here, when an institute PMI, if it has to use a terminology, then it is understandable to everyone. It can be used for other professional references or certifications. So that's another reason why how the PMBOK guide is really useful. So this is from section 1.1. There is I've just taken a sample question. So section 1.1, this is covered. The question is, which among the following is not correct according to the Project Management Institute Code of Ethics and Professional Conduct? So this is a professional conduct question, and this was picked from section 1.1. So the options that are given in the chapter test or for this question are practitioners must comply with laws, regulations and policies. Number one is the option. Number two, practitioners should be committed to honest dealings with stakeholders. Number three, practitioners can be respectful with stakeholders only if needed. Number four, practitioners must demonstrate a commitment to professional conduct. So one says that practitioners must comply with laws, regulations and policies, which is something they have to do because that's what is stated by the Code of Ethics. Practitioners should be committed to honest dealings with stakeholders. Nothing wrong with this because they have to be honest with all the stakeholders and fair to them. 4. Practitioners must demonstrate a commitment to professional conduct. This is also stated in the PMI conduct as part of section 1.1. But if you look at the third option, it says they can be respectful with stakeholders only if needed. No, that's not allowed because basically they have to deal everybody with respect and fairly because they will be dealing with different stakeholders all across the world. So the option is 3. Now 8th point, again this is one more question which is picked from section 1.2. So if you look the chapter test questions, all of them would have been picked up from PMBOK. So the idea of the chapter test is to make you thorough with the PMBOK concepts first, because that's where you actually start. Anybody who has cleared the PMP exam, they would say, I have read PMBOK so many times, because when you get thorough with those concepts, you know what is a process, what is a flow, what is being stated there, and you can deal with any phrasing change. You understand what each of the words in the options mean, so you can answer your questions better. So that's where your preparation starts. Get yourself thorough with the PMBOK. Be sure what each of the statements say, what is covered in indirectly, what is covered in what section. So here is one more question. Out of the following, which one is not a reason for the project, for the end of a project is considered to be reached? So let's first revisit the definition for a project. What's a project? A project is a temporary endeavor to create a unique product, service or result. Okay, it's a temporary endeavor. The endeavor here means an attempt. Okay, it's an English word which means attempt. So the attempt can be success or failure. So going by that, it's not necessary that all your projects are successful. You might start on a project, something might get called off midway. So going by that, so let's look at each of these options. Out of the following, which one is not a reason for the end of the project is considered to be reached? Number one option, project's objectives have been achieved. Yeah, project success. That means project success. Project's objectives cannot be met, which means the project was started, the endeavor was not successful. Again, it's an endeavor. So number three is need for the project no longer exists. So again, if you look at the PMBOK, these are the 3 points that are given for in section 1.2 stating when the end of a project is considered to be reached. So going by the technique of elimination, it should be the option 4, which is project's end is unknown. Okay, so this is more of a elimination technique, because the first one is project's objectives have been achieved, which is success, the endeavor is successful. Project's objectives cannot be met, which means the endeavor was not successful, but still it's a project. Need for the project no longer exists. This is also a type of failure of endeavor, in the form of the vision has changed, the strategy has changed, but then they started on a project. So going by that technique of elimination, because section 1.2 covers these things as the reason for the end of project is considered to be reached, then fourth is the correct option, which says project's end is unknown. Next one, projects can have social, economic and environmental impacts that far outlaws the projects themselves. So economic is different from economical. Again, this play with words. So projects can have social, economic. It's not economical, it's economic. Socio-economic, it's called socio-economic and environmental impacts that far outlaws the projects themselves. Yeah, project is a temporary endeavor which is aimed to put something in place. That something can be a product, service or result. Okay, so the project, when it puts something in place, it doesn't have an idea of what sort of an impact it can cause. But then when the end result or the product or the service is in place, it can be there for generations. Think of a bridge. When somebody built it, he would not have guessed how long it would stay there. So the time that they probably spent building it was probably a few years or something like that, which is again temporary. It has a definite beginning and ending. But then the impact that it can cause is, it can far outlast the time that the project was put in place, or the time that was spent to put the project in place. So temporary here means definite begin and end. It doesn't mean long or short. Okay, so that's where the projects can have social, economic and environmental impacts that far outlaws the projects themselves. Next one, presence of repetitive elements does not change the fundamental uniqueness of the project work. This has been discussed in probably our part 2 and also in part 1. There can be repetitive elements in the development of a project. Understand that operations are ongoing and repetitive, but when we say repetitive elements, we can mean presence of the same team members, use of same components in a project, but then it doesn't alter the uniqueness of the project as such. So here the presence of repetitive elements in a project does not alter the uniqueness of a project. Okay, but operations are ongoing and repetitive. The process as such is ongoing and repetitive in case of operations. Projects put a operation in place. So these are the relationships between these terminologies. An ongoing work effort is generally a repetitive process in an organization. When you say an ongoing work effort, it's more used in terms of an operation. So operations have a process, they keep happening day to day, day in and day out, and they were put in place by a project. And projects can have repetitive elements. They can have same team members who did a previous project. They can be two projects can be done at the same time. They can use the same components, but then the combination as such is unique. So the presence of repetitive elements from one project to another doesn't alter the fundamental uniqueness of the project. So each of these words we need to be able to pick up, so that then it will give us a proper definition of the whole thing. Changing the project requirements is ideally considered to create additional risks. Yeah, when you change requirements in a project, obviously it can add more risks which you have to evaluate, and it can impact your different objectives. So this is stated in section 1.3. I have specified, and I am specifying the sections basically because this will give us an idea of how we need to go through each of the chapters and how we need to be thorough with each of the sections, which is really important for you to understand and get the concepts in. Another question from section 1.3: which among these is a project constraint? Option A, scope. Option B, quality. Option C, schedule. Option D, all of the above. So scope, quality, schedule, they are all project constraints, because these are all knowledge areas that's part of the PMBOK. So you have scope can be a constraint, time can be a constraint, cost can be a constraint, quality can be a constraint, stakeholders can be a constraint sometimes, because if there is a negative stakeholder, he can be a constraint because he says I want these requirements this way, so that can be a constraint for you. Progressive elaboration is a technique that allows a project manager to manage to a greater level of detail as project evolves. So when your requirements are a lot more clear and you are able to put down your project management plan in a lot more detail, the project manager has better say or better control over the project as such. So progressive elaboration is a technique that allows a project manager to manage to a greater level of detail as project evolves. Okay, initially he might start with one-liners or deliverables, and then as he goes and plans, he knows more about the deliverables and he has better control, and he knows where to look for, what control points to have and things like that. Next point: both non-profit organizations and profit-based organizations have business value. Business value might be in the form of tangible asset or intangible assets. Intangible assets can be goodwill, brand value, and all that. But tangible assets are in the form of land, building, and things like that. So both non-profit organization and profit-based organizations have business value, and business value can be tangible and intangible assets. Project managers expect change and implement processes to keep change managed and controlled. Project managers always anticipate change. Change is the only constant. So, and they implement processes to keep changes under control. You can't avoid changes, but then you can anticipate and have process in place so that you can handle changes effectively. Changes to the requirement here. Table 1-1 section 1.4, there's a statement: program managers monitor the progress of program components to ensure the overall goals, schedules, budget, and benefits of the program will be met. Program managers monitor the progress of program components to ensure the overall goals, schedules, budget, and benefits of the program will be met. This is part of table 1-1 section 1.4, which covers the role of program manager, project manager, and the portfolio manager for different areas. Next one: a portfolio refers to a collection of projects or programs and other work that are grouped together to facilitate effective management of that work to meet strategic objectives. Yeah, portfolio means at the strategy level At this level, you are more concerned with your market share, your ability to effectively manage clients. You're grouping projects and programs together. You're not bothered about, you know, how each project are linked together, but you're mainly aiming at maximizing investment, you know, bringing more client satisfaction, things like that. Strategy, portfolio. So that's the keyword. Section 1.4.1. So this question is from section 1.4.1. The question goes like, dash may include elements of related work outside the scope of the discrete projects in the program. The options are portfolios, programs, number 3 related projects, 4 none of the above. So this is picked up from section 1.4.1. So the option is programs. Programs may include elements of related work outside the scope of the discrete projects in the program. Yeah, programs have related projects, okay, but then the peripherals, or how they are linked together, the interfacing also becomes part of the program. So program may include elements of related work outside the scope of the discrete project. So an interface that links between two projects still is an out of scope for these two projects, but then it's part of the program. So that's what this conveys. So these are some of the key points that get covered in the chapter test. So with this in mind, just go through the PMBOK one more time, section by section, and attempt the chapter 1 PMBOK test, and you should be fine with it. Thank you. Bye.